we are going to get started down our training agenda with this afternoon, which is using the calendar. So I will have one of you, it doesn't matter to me who on what computer, hit the share screen button.
I'll do it.
That's fine.
Awesome. So all right, so we are going to go back to our IMD, EMR, and Foxfire PM icon on the bottom right-hand corner. When you click this, you can actually hit the Do Not Ask Me Again on this computer check marks. That way, when you double-click that, it just goes straight to your username and password. Just a quick hint for anyone else. Awesome. Once this gets loaded, on the bottom left, the icon that says Foxfire PM, we'll go ahead and double click on that one. This is the one that is the same username, but the password is password1 with a capital P and the number 1, unless you have gone in and changed it. All right, as that is loading, just a refresher from our previous training, you'll always see the loading screen for a few seconds right up front. This is the same system that houses all of the patient demographic information. It's also where we'll have our point of sale checkout, payments, and adjustments. What we are going to focus on for the next hour is how to use the calendar. So across the top on the calendar icon, go ahead and click there. Just click it once. It does take about 6 seconds to load. Same idea of what we did at the beginning. It pulls all the calendar detail and information forward upon the first time you've clicked on it. That way, once it's loaded, you can click back and forth between any icons across the top without it lagging at all. So the first thing that you're going to see right now is that we have 3 calendars on the left-hand side that are built. What's probably going to take place is you're going to have a list of locations that when you go into the login screen, you will just select the location that you are physically at so that you can view the schedule at that location. Each of the locations will then have their own appointments, and you will be able to get into the different locations just from this screen here. If you'll notice on the left-hand side, there's a list that starts with some file, patient report, maintenance, and window drop-down buttons. Below there, there's a location drop-down that'll probably be changed to say Manhattan. Then there's a patient icon or field to put in patient information, which we'll talk about. Below there is a list of 3 calendars. The only one that's built right now and allows us to make some changes on it is Dr. Julie's. So go ahead and check mark the box that says Dr. Julie. That's going to open up Dr. Julie's calendar in the screen itself. Below there is a calendar that allows you to select what day you're looking at. So right now we are on August 9th. But if you were to click down to the 16th or 15th down below, you're going to see it just goes to that next day and it will display any appointments that may be on that calendar. Next week, if you want to click and hold 14 and hold down and drag to 15, 16, you will be able to see 3 days side by side if you select all. So it's up to you how you want to view the calendar, what you want it to look like, how many days at a time. If you click the Today button again, or just click on the 9th, we'll just keep us at 1 day. You can also hold down your Control key and select the 16th, and that will show those 2 days side by side without having to click and drag. So again, if you're on today and you hold down Control on your keyboard and click another day on the calendar, those 2 days will be side by side. You'll see why that's important when we start rescheduling, but that just makes for easy viewing. In the middle of the screen, you can see right now that it's set up in 15-minute increments. So 8, 8:15, 8:30, 8:45, and 9 o'clock. If you right-click on that ruler, it will allow you to change the duration of how you see the calendar. So yep, right there where the time is, right-click with your mouse. And you can see that you can change the view. If you want to view it in 5-minute increments, 20, 10, 60, however you want to view the calendar that best fits you, you can change that here. That just breaks that ruler or the time on the left-hand side up in different increments. Yep.
Oh, okay.
So in the middle of the calendar and what we see here, Dr. Julie's background is purple, which is why you see the purple in some of the background. The white indicates an available appointment slot. Now, right now you guys are used to short and long slots. These will be renamed to short and long, but ultimately it follows the structure that what I'm hearing is that you are used to right now with the short and long appointments.
Okay.
So the first thing that we're going to talk about is how to make an appointment. And making an appointment is very simple. You just find an available slot and you double click on it. So I'll have you go ahead and double click on any of the available appointment slots. This will open up a window that allows you to start at the top and work your way down. I always say in reading order because it's just top to bottom. Where it says patient, you have the ability to search for a patient, enter patient ID, or add a new patient. So if you were to type in Foxfire and hit enter, it will search for every patient that has Foxfire in their name and give you a list of those fake patients we've been adding. Go ahead and select one of them to make an appointment with. Once you have your patient entered, the next drop down is the appointment type. It currently says available. If you click that drop down, for training today, you only see lunch and test because once your conversion is done, all of the appointment types that you're used to seeing will show up. But in the meantime, we're going to select test as our appointment that we're going to play with. That way I know it's fake and I know we can come over and remove it if needed. So when we select that appointment type, a couple of things are going to happen. This appointment type has an automatic duration of 30 minutes. I don't have to change or do anything. Whenever I make this type of appointment, it will automatically put 30 minutes on my calendar. So we will be going in once the conversion is said and done, and we will be making sure that all of the appointment types match the available slot you're putting it in. Below there, in the 3 boxes down on the left, is your description and notes. The description is simply the name of the appointment. So this could be established comprehensive or new comprehensive or new patient exam or refraction plus exam, whatever it is that you have named or titled. The one underneath of there is called appointment type notes. This is something that's built in the background and is set up as basically a reminder for you. So for example, the first one that comes to mind is contact lens, and I know that doesn't really impact you, but for let's say a contact lens appointment, another clinic has put in there, wear your contact lenses at least 4 hours before your exam and do not wear makeup. That is just a little ditty that's in that note box so that each of you remembers, hey, I need to remind the patient making this type of an appointment of this information. So on a new patient exam, you could put, be sure to bring all of the glasses that you wear, bring a list of medications, and your insurance card. That way you aren't forgetting to remind those patients of really important information on the appointments that they're making. The third box below there to the left is where you can free type notes. So if this patient is coming in and you want to make specific notes about the appointment, this is where you can free type those notes. Go ahead and under the notes section, just put example or note or test. Perfect. From there, the middle where it says additional resources isn't really anything that you guys utilize right now. This is more for doctors who are coming in as students or who are shadowing, and I've only ever had one clinic take advantage of this. But ultimately, when you're making this appointment, if it's something you do, if I were to select the cataract paperwork additional resource, it will put this same appointment on that calendar. So if this patient does need to go on an additional calendar for the same time and the same appointment type, you could click that box and it will just basically duplicate the appointment. To the right is override and force. As long as you are making an appointment within the rules or the template, or basically where it says available in white, you won't have to worry about this field. Where you may have to is if you are making an appointment that is an emergency that gets brought in outside of normal appointment times or something over lunch hour, the system is going to say, hey, you're outside of the normal limits. What's the reason that you are overriding or forcing an appointment in? If that's the case, the system will stop you and it will say, hey, you need to fill this out and give us a reason before you move forward with putting the appointment on the calendar. Above that, in the top right hand, it says selected patients recall or waiting list. Are you guys utilizing For Patient Care for reminders and recalls? I have you down as doing that, but I wasn't quite sure. I hadn't heard anything.
We were.
You are?
I think so.
Perfect. So what this means is that when a patient comes in and they're due in a year, you're going to put them on a recall list. When they get a recall from For Patient Care that says, hey, you're due for an appointment with Dr. Julie, please call our office, and they call to make an appointment, you're going to have a big red flashy bar on the right-hand side. And what that's doing is saying, hey, Allison was due for an appointment and she's making that appointment, so you need to tell the system to stop reminding her to make the appointment. It's called fulfilling a recall. Once we get a little bit more into the calendar and into the system and you get training with For Patient Care, we're going to cover that in depth. For now, you aren't going to see any red flashing bars because we don't have any recalls yet. So all I've done is added my patient, my appointment type, and any notes I might need, and now you can hit the Save button. This appointment will show up on the calendar as black, but you will have different colors and you get to customize all that fancy stuff. For now, I've marked it black just so it's, I guess, is easy for me to spot knowing that it's a fake appointment and I can clean up the calendar before go live. So that's the process of making an appointment. Do you have any questions or do you want to go through it again or do you feel pretty good about it?
I'm good.
Okay. Once we know how to make an appointment, the next step is learning how to reschedule an appointment. So Allison calls and says that she is unable to come in today, but she can come in next Thursday. This is where that fancy hit the control button and select the other day comes in handy. So if you go ahead on the left-hand side of the screen and hit the control key and hit 16th, you're going to have that day come up side by side. Now Allison says she can come in, but she can come in at 10 o'clock. So all you need to do is click on her appointment in black and drag it to the 10 o'clock slot on the 16th. Yep, and let go. The system is going to say, what are you doing? And this is called a scheduling code. You can manage this by just entering reschedule, or we can add a list of them. For example, if you want to track that it was a patient that rescheduled, we could have patient reschedule in the dropdown versus, hey, something went on at the clinic and we're unavailable and we had to reschedule the patient. That would be a clinic reschedule. If you don't need to track things like that and it doesn't really matter, we just need to know that this was a rescheduled appointment, we can leave it as just a basic reschedule, or you can enter in a note to say patient called to reschedule a family emergency or is ill or whatever the case is. Once you've pointed, clicked, and dragged, go ahead and hit the OK button. That's all there is to it. The other way to reschedule, if you want to, is a cut and paste. So if Allison calls back and she says, just kidding, I can come in today, but I can't come in till 11. Now what we can do is find her appointment and right click on it and hit the cut to reschedule option. Then go back to today at 11 o'clock, right click and paste. It's the same thing as click and drag. It gives you the same process to select that you're rescheduling and then hit OK. It's just more clicks. I'm a point, click, and drag person, but I know that many people prefer just to do the copy or cut and paste. Go ahead and click back on the calendar to the 9th just so we have one day in front of us, and it gets rid of the 16th. You can reschedule patients day to day. You can reschedule them from today at 11 to today at 2 o'clock. That anywhere that you want to put them on the calendar, you're able to with a click and drag or a right click, cut and paste. Does anybody have questions on how to reschedule appointments?
No.
I don't.
Perfect. So now Allison calls because she cannot make up her mind, and she decides, I can't come in at all and I don't know when I can reschedule, so I just need to cancel my appointment. To cancel an appointment, you can right-click on the appointment and there will be an option to cancel the appointment. Otherwise, you could hit the delete button on your keyboard. When you click the cancel appointment button from the drop down here, it is going to stop you and make sure that you absolutely want to. And as long as you hit yes to continue canceling the appointment, it's going to ask you what the reason is. Now again, I have the simple cancel in here, but if you wanted to track other options, we could create different options in here, or you could free type it in the notes and then simply hit OK. So go ahead and hit OK here. All right, so that is the process of adding, rescheduling, and canceling appointments. So go ahead and double click anywhere on an available slot and make another appointment for another patient. While she's doing that, just as a reminder, in that field, she's typing Foxfire, but if you just had the patient's date of birth, you could type that in. You could type in the first name or the account number as well. We'll go ahead and select test as the appointment type since that's the only one that we have. You can enter notes if you want to. Go ahead and just put something in there. And
So anytime it says patient, whatever identifying factors that we have in front of us, we can search the patient by that, correct?
absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we have Elizabeth Foxfire here now. So let's talk a little bit about her information. If you right-click on Elizabeth Foxfire and hit Get Patient, which is the second to last option, the left-hand side of your screen is going to change. The left-hand side of your screen at the very bottom is broken down into 3 categories: options, patient, and appointments. If you go back to options, you will see that you're at that main screen we were at just a minute ago. If you click on patient, you are going to see the specific patient details of the patient that we have highlighted. So across the top, I can see Elizabeth's patient ID. I can see her balance. Below there, I can see the demographics. And then there's a tab for insurance. This information can be edited and information can be added here. What I want to point out is if you go back to demographics, let's say that you're making the appointment and she indicates that, hey, I can put in my social, or there's a preferred name or a change to the address, whatever the case is, just make sure that at the very top of that you hit the save button to make sure it saves. That allows you to skip having to go back to demographics to make those changes. Whatever you put here also reflects on the demographics page that we learned about earlier this week. Okay. All right, so there's one more piece that I want to talk about when it comes to a patient. If you would please, up at the top where it says Elizabeth Foxfire in the patient field, go ahead and take out Elizabeth's name and type in Allison or AL and hit enter. So let's select Allison Foxfire. So now for Allison, let's say that I need to take a look at some information about her appointments and her recalls. Once we have her pulled up on this screen, if you go just above there to the patient drop down, the very first option reads appointments, waiting, and recall list. By making that selection across the top of your calendar, you're going to get tabs very similar to Internet Explorer. And here what you can do is take a look at the different appointments that this patient has had. So if we start, you can see down at the bottom that she was originally scheduled 8/9 at 8:15 for 30 minutes with Dr. Julie, but then that one was rescheduled. Above there, I can see that there was a 9:30 and 11 that were canceled and another one on the 16th that was rescheduled. This is a running tally, I guess, of all of the different information about this patient, any appointments they've had, the activity about them. If this patient's on the waiting list, you can see it's tabbed out from there. There will be a waiting list. And if this patient has recalls, there will be information in the recall list. So we'll add that a little bit later and I'll show you what it means.
So is there a way to show like the order, like say, because it went from 8-9 to 8-16 and then back to 8-9 for the appointment. Is there a way to like see that in order as far as they were offered the 16th, that didn't work, so they rescheduled back to the 9th and then just ended up canceling?
Do me a favor, and where you're highlighted, click at the bottom right and the little arrow that looks like a recycle with a clock in it on the bottom right. Yep. Because I think it tells us that here. Let me ask the question. Right now it doesn't. You can sort it by the different options there, but I like the idea that it would be nice to see it in the order that it actually took place. So let me forward that on as an we call them enhancement requests, to see if they can have the default, the order in which the activity happened.
Okay.
That sounds good. All right, so this button is the transaction history. You guys saw that on the demographics screen. It was the little guy with the eye. This is just the little round arrow. It tells you who did what and when. So that's what that is. Across the top, go ahead and click on Dr. Julie to get back to her calendar. And let's, on the bottom left, go back to the options. A couple things that I want to look at. On Elizabeth Foxfire's appointment, you're going to see that there are 4 icons. There's a little blue S, there's a grayed out $sign, a red X, and a blue comment window. So the blue S is a really important one. This is the check-in button. When Elizabeth Foxfire walks in the door and is ready to check in, you need to click the blue S for a couple of reasons. Clicking the blue S checks the patient into the clinic. This puts the patient into the EMR on the patient flow, which we saw this morning. Clicking the blue S also indicates that this patient showed up for their appointment. One of the options for patient care offers is that if Elizabeth didn't show up today, she didn't get marked checked in, she's considered a no-show, and a reminder goes out to her to say, sorry, we missed you at your appointment today, please call us to reschedule. You do not want patients who show up to get that message. So it's really important that the first thing you always do when a patient walks in is confirm who they are and go ahead and hit the blue S for me. That blue S.
So if you don't check the blue S, can you still pull them up in the EHR section of it or not?
Yes, you can still pull anyone up in the EHR, but not hitting the blue S will have the most impact because it indicates the patient never showed for their appointment.
Okay.
Yep, great question. Now, as you guys know, in the EMR, you can change statuses from there to being worked up, waiting for the doctor, being seen by the doctor, taking a test. I will encourage you to use that system to track the rest of your statuses. But because I'm training you in the calendar, I also just want to point out that once you hit the blue S, it goes to a red arrow. If you click the red arrow, it actually says take back. Now, we have this because I have clients that don't use EHR. Okay, maybe they're still on paper, they're using another form of charting. So they track all of the patient's movements through the calendar. If you go ahead and hit OK here. So once it's the blue door, if you click the blue door, that says that the patient is checked out and it turns to a green arrow. Now you can track all of these through the EMR, and that's what I'll suggest that you do. But I just wanted to show you, if you click it again, it doesn't hurt anything. It doesn't take it back. It just changes the icons all the way through take back and checkout. If you right click on the patient's appointment because you accidentally did a checkout and you didn't mean to, you can actually clear the last thing you did, so clear checkout, or you can start over. You can clear all statuses, it starts back at the blue S, and you can check them back in. So you're never stuck if you accidentally click something. So go ahead and just hit the blue S and we'll get this patient checked in. To the right-hand side of this appointment, the little grayed out $ that you see is where you can view the patient's balance. There's going to be a little bit of a transition that you guys are coming into. We are in the process of moving from one like back-end billing system to integrating that back-end billing system into the screen that you're looking at right here. That's coming down just in a few short months. So right now, what we have is the patient's $ live in a system called Navigator, but they talk to each other. So if you click that little $, a window is going to pull up, and it's just going to request information to say, hey, what's this patient's balance? You'll notice, though, that the last time it was updated was the 7th, so you just click the Update Balance button on the bottom left of that window. It'll refresh to today's time and date, and it'll tell you the overall balance. One of the sessions we'll be going through later is when the patient says, well, what is that from? How did I get that balance? That's where we are going to look at the patient financials, and that's in a session down the road. So that icon is just simply a patient balance preview. Go ahead and click the Close Window button. To the right of that $ is a red X. This red X is the confirmation symbol. A red X means the patient did not confirm their appointment. This is another thing that For Patient Care will take care of for you. Elizabeth Foxfire, let's say she gets a text and it says, just a reminder, you have an appointment on the 9th, this time with this doctor. Press 1 to confirm. If she presses 1, this red X turns to a green check mark. If you happen to talk to Elizabeth Foxfire or she calls and you talk to her about it, you can actually manually click on the red X and it will change to a green check mark to indicate this appointment is confirmed. What I like about this option is that at the beginning of the day, you can see which patients have confirmed their appointments and which ones haven't. So many of my clinics take a look at that in the morning, and for the 1 or 2 that maybe didn't confirm or don't have a green check, they right-click and get patient. They call the patient up to say, hey, I just wanted to remind you of your appointment today. Can we expect to see you at 11 o'clock? And the patient says, yep, no problem. Now you can mark it confirmed. A really nice way to view that is if you go to the top of the screen, there's a drop down that right now has the word all in it.
Sorry, I was writing.
Nope, you're okay. That's perfectly fine. Click that all. And just to the left of where your mouse is, there's a drop down that says all.
Oh,
yep. This is an appointment filter. If you, right now you're displaying everything, the available slots, the taken spots, the booked, the confirmed and whatnot. Where I usually have people start once they get their calendar filled up is by going to not confirmed. If you click not confirmed, the only thing that's going to show up on your calendar are the appointments that do not have the green check mark. If it's empty and it looks like this, everyone has confirmed their appointment. If you go back up and you click all, you'll be able to see back what we were looking at before. If you start to get really busy and you just need to see the available time slots, I don't want to see anything else. I just need it to be very quick and easy for me to see available. You can click available. That gets rid of anything already booked and just allows you to see what's on the calendar that can be booked. Go ahead and you got back to all, so you're perfect. What questions do you guys have, if any, so far on here?
None for me.
Perfect. So let's keep talking through a few things. On the bottom left of this screen, you see go to date, some check marks, and some fields. Go to date is one of my favorite features of the calendar because when Elizabeth Foxfire comes out of the exam room and she needs to be seen again in 6 weeks, instead of counting weeks on the calendar, in that go to date, you can simply type 6W. And hit enter. That brings you to 6 weeks from today. So W for weeks, D for days, Y for years, M for months. It doesn't matter what you enter for numbers. You could do 1D and it will bring you 1 day from today. It's important to know that now that you're on September 20th, if you type in 3M for 3 months, it's not 3 months from September 20th. It's still 3 months from today. So anything you put in that go-to date will always be from today's date. Now, when we went 3 months, this brought us to November 9th. It's blank. There's nothing in it because this is a Friday. Dr. Julie doesn't have any available times on Friday, so you'd go backwards to, the 8th or the 15th or whatever the next available day is. Once you've made an appointment for that patient, you can click the Today button just below the calendar, and that brings you right back to today's schedule. Below that, once you start to get booked up, is the search field. This is where you have that patient that calls and says, I can come in on Thursdays between 11 and 1, but that's it. You could actually, go back to the options tab for me, if you would. You can actually uncheck all the days of the week except for Thursday, and it will search those days and times. So there's your days. Below there is your start and end time. Below there is your appointment type and the location. So you can filter down as far as you want to get as detailed. I actually got a call from a doctor just before we got on the phone. She's booked solid through the middle of November, and she is getting tired of scrolling through the days to find available slots. So this was something, even though she's been on the system for 90 days, she learned about it, she forgot about it, and now it's time where she really needs to start utilizing it because it's taking much less time to hit search, and the system brings you to the next available appointment rather than trying to click through days and look for it. So you will find that you will use this a little bit more when your conversion appointments come through, because all the appointments that are currently on your calendar are coming into this calendar. Now, once you have hit the search button, please notice that your appointment filter up at the top defaulted to available. So you're missing today's appointment that we just put on for Elizabeth. So you'd have to go back up to the top and change that drop down to all. Because when you search, you're searching for available appointments. Okay. While we're up at the top, that email first and last appointment information to provider, go ahead and you can click that now if you want to. Basically what this is going to do is it's going to send an email to the doctor to say on whatever day you're on, in this case August 9th, your first appointment starts at this time and your last appointment starts at this time. So if Dr. Julie calls and says, what does my schedule look like on the 16th? When do I start and end? That's just a quick button that you can shoot an email over to Dr. Julie, and it just gives very basic information. Dr. Julie, you will receive an email, if you haven't already, that shows what that email looks like.
Okay.
You go ahead and hit the OK button. Those emails are set up in the background based on the calendar. So Dr. Julie and Dr. Bill, when we were looking at our calendar maintenance and there was an email address in there, that's where it comes from. So like that cataract paperwork one we put together, we didn't put an email address on it. If you want them to be able to click that button and it goes somewhere, you just want to add an email address in that maintenance section.
Okay.
Okay. Let's go ahead and move to appointment reports, and then we'll talk about recalls. So up at the top left where there's the list of drop downs, if you click the report button, there are 2 different report types. Before we do that though, I am going to ask, so Allison, we're viewing your screen. Elizabeth, are you watching the screen or do you also have it pulled up and are looking at it?
I'm watching it.
Okay, sounds good. So what I want you to do, Allison, is go ahead and make like 2 more appointments throughout the day, like 1 in the afternoon, 1 in the morning, just so we get a couple more on there. So you're going to notice Allison's name pops up there because she is on the left-hand side of the screen. So hit the little X to the far right of her name to clear it. And then if you want to, just, type in Foxfire, or if you know the account number, whatever the case is, and choose a different patient. Yep. Perfect. And I forgot to mention, when you make the appointment, that little blue comment card, that's just your notes. It indicates there's a note on your appointment. If you click on it, it just pulls up another window that shows you what your note said. So it would just say example. If you don't want Allison's name to pop up every time you're making an appointment, you can just exit her out of the left-hand side. Yep. So for now,
So
just
I was gonna say, if I don't type anything in there, then
that blue, nope, then there's no blue icon. Yep.
Okay.
Okay. So now we're going to pull a report because you want to see what your day looks like. So go to the report dropdown. There are 2 different versions of this report. I'm going to have you pull them both just so you see what they look like. Start with daily appointments report type 1. This opens another tab across the top. When that opens up, you're going to have your parameters at the bottom and your view screen at the top. So down at the bottom left, you can choose to print out a specific calendar. So just for this case, select Dr. Julie. Then appointment types, I would suggest always hitting the select/clear all. Then to the right of that, scheduling locations, you'll select whichever location. We only have one right now. Then the appointment dates will default to today, but if you wanted to pull a week's worth or 2 days worth, you could certainly change the start and end. And then there is a group and sort by, but just to pull your standard everyday schedule, you don't have to change anything. You can just hit run report. This pulls the report up on the screen and allows you to view it. I think this one is this one's the portrait version. So it will just tell you in order the time, who it is. You can see it there. This report is the only report that gives you total appointments for the day. If you go to the report dropdown and select type 2, you'll see the difference between the two. When you're pulling report type 2, everything is exactly the same. You'll still select your provider or the calendar. You'll select all appointments and one location. But before hitting run report, click show appointment notes and then hit run report. This one's in a landscape view. Personally, I prefer this one because it's easier to read. But what you'll notice is that this one then at the bottom shows the specific appointment notes that you wrote in about it. If you wanted to print this onto paper because maybe you have it at the front desk and you highlight as they come in or whatever the case is, there is a little print, the adorable little print button up there at the top. One is a quick print once we set your default printer up, and one you just choose your printer. So those will get set up for you. Okay. Under the report dropdown, there are quite a few other options that you have. So for example, if you wanted to see appointment statuses, you wanted to pull a report that shows this week all of the patients who if you needed to run like a no-show report, you could click the appointment status report. The same idea, a tab's going to open up with parameters at the bottom. So in this case, and I guess these statuses are like reschedule, override, force, but like let's say you wanted to see a list of all of the patients who canceled this week, you could run a canceled report. Same idea. Yep. And there's anything that has been canceled. And I have canceled, as you can see, I did some practice stuff to prep for this morning. Now on that appointment reports up at the top left again, you can click in here and you can find any different reports that you want to play around with. The only one that you will not have access to is the recalls report, because your recalls will be managed by For Patient Care. So when you try to run that one, it's probably going to stop you. I don't know if it's active yet, but it'll stop you and it'll say you don't have access to this because For Patient Care is active. Recalls report for folks that don't utilize For Patient Care is when they take the time to run the report, create a postcard, send out a reminder on paper to have the patient make an appointment. Okay, so let's go back across the top to Dr. Julie's tab to open up her calendar. So in here, the very last thing I want to talk about are recalls. So let's talk about Allison down at the bottom. When Allison is done being seen by the doctor, one of the very important things we have to do, there should be one of two things. Either another appointment needs to be put on the calendar or a recall needs to be added. That's the two options for follow-up at the end of every appointment. Please right-click on Allison Foxfire's appointment. So in here, you can hit the Add Recall, which is the third to the bottom. If Allison needs to be seen again in 1 year, you won't fill anything at the top out, but on the details, you will select what type of appointment. These are going to be a list of recalls. They're not in there yet because you don't have the conversion in there, but it'll say like 1 year recall, 2 year recall, 6-month follow-up, whatever it is that we decide to enter for recalls. The resource is the doctor that they are due to be seen. The location is the location they're being seen at. The date is really important. The date is the date they are due to return to the office. So if she is seen today, August 9th, and she's due again in a year, if it was me, I would put August 15th. And here's why. When Allison comes in or calls to make an appointment and she's due the 15th, I have a little bit of wiggle room to know that, hey, she needs to be seen probably a few days before the 15th. If I set it as the 9th and she calls to make an appointment on the 8th of next year, there are insurances that will not cover her because it has not been a full 365 days. So what I do as a rule of thumb is I say, if it's between the 1st and the 14th, make the recall date the 15th. If it's after the 15th, make the recall date the last day of the month. You can always put a note to say last date of service 8/9, so you can refer to it. But that gives us an idea to know, hey, we have a little bit of wiggle room in case we don't hit that recall date exactly, because you would hate for their insurance to be denied because it hasn't been a full year because they missed it by 2 days. That happened to my sister last year. So the recalls are very, very important. We'll talk more about them as we move forward into the 4 patient care training that we'll do. But this is something that you will be taking advantage of with every single patient that checks out. Go ahead and here, hit the type drop down. I don't know if anything's in there, but nope, there's not. Okay. I might add something in there.
I do have a question about the recall real quick.
Sure.
So, like Dr. Bill, he sees the occasional emergency and they don't have to come back to us.
Perfect.
So on the recall, how do we put that in? Can we skip the recall on those situations? How is that handled?
Great question. Skip the recall. If he sees an emergency or any patient that really doesn't have to come back to you or they're not set to, just skip it. That's perfectly fine. That's
okay.
great. Yeah, good question. Okay. What other questions do you have in the calendar? That's my full to-do list for today. So unless there are other pieces that you guys use now that we didn't cover and you want to see more about, let me know. Otherwise, you can get in here and make as many appointments as you want. I would probably just say go in and cancel them. But also make a couple of appointments and check those patients in and then look at how they look on the EHR. So kind of pull them up both. And don't hesitate to add a new patient, get them on the schedule, check them in, update their demographics, and do a workup. Do it in the order that you're going to be doing this in real life to get your brain wrapped around it. Double click an available slot for me. I just have to show you one more thing that I forgot to do. So if Morgan calls and she is not in the system yet, that adorable little plus sign to the right of Allison's name is the Add New Patient button. You do not have to leave the calendar to add a new patient. If you click that Add New Patient button, the screen's going to look familiar. This will add a new patient quickly. You'll still go back to the demographic screen and, you know, make adjustments, add insurance, and like if you need to scan that insurance card in and stuff. But at least this way you can grab the patient's information and book their time on the schedule without having to leave the calendar. So just know that that is an option. That's what that little plus sign is for.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I will open it up for any questions that you have for me.
So then, like if we have, like with Bill's schedule, how we have it set up, is there going to be like 3 or 4 columns, since we sometimes have 4, like, that makes sense. So like since he has like an 8, an 8:15, and an 8:30, will his calendar be 3? Would that be 3 columns then for appointments?
It just depends on how it turns out in the template. I haven't seen his yet, so I can't answer that for sure, but it's very possible that you will have it that way.
Okay.
You know, if you like break this down by 5 minutes, you're not going to see as many columns. It just is a matter of how you're viewing the calendar, but yes, it's
Okay.
possible.
Okay.
What other questions?
I don't have any.
Perfect.
I don't.
Okay. So from here, like I said before, go in, practice, try to break it if you absolutely can. That would be great. And let me know if any questions come up at all. And otherwise, I always like to end a session with what's coming next. And I don't have it memorized. So I think we're together next week. Yep, I have us together next Wednesday.
Okay, Wednesday.
So, yep, we'll be going through Wednesday afternoon with part of the exam. So let me know if anything else comes up before then. I might call and check on you guys here and there just to see if you have anything for me. Otherwise, don't hesitate to reach out, and I will talk to you then next week. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.